So Chairman will get to answer the question first. Caleb Hignett, who's going to have the position of Classical Economics, and Shannon Garcia-Pierce, who will have the position of Keynesian Economics. So we welcome you to the session today, and we look forward to your questions.
Okay. So what you're asking is my position on how we're going to get out of the high unemployment and the debt. Well, first of all, the Keynesian economics basically states that by putting money into the government or in government spending, that they will be able to entice people to spend money. So when a person goes out and spends money, the business makes money, they're able to spend that money. People are able to hire more people. So that's basically, the unemployment will go down if there's more spending and more money generated. Yes.
What I would say to respond to that is the best thing to do is make things competitive and free in the market. Free trade has endless benefits for unemployment, and which will help the government reduce its debt. You're not going to have tariffs in free trade, so the companies itself won't have to put that money towards tariffs anymore. They can use that money to grow and hire more people. When you have higher unemployment, or higher employment, I should say, you're gonna have more money going into the economy. Well, the question is basically, can you do nothing when there's a major crisis like the Great Depression? And the answer to that is by looking at what happened when we tried to do something in the Great Depression, and it shows that the policies that were put in place by FDR actually failed and did not get people back to work. It just higher inflation, and it just didn't work. You can see that the cost of living does not. It has to come down by, again, opening up the market. You can't constantly get involved. There has to be a consequence when you make a bad decision in the economy. So the government intervening there has to be a way for people to realize that they can't just do whatever they want. It has to be free market. The mechanism will fix itself.
I totally disagree on that. Actually, FDR, when he started putting all this money into the economy, it actually did lower the unemployment rate. And we don't want to lower it too much, because then inflation goes up. Obviously, if people are going out spending too much money, the price of everything goes up. But after the Great Depression, the only way that we got out of it was that they did put money back into the environment and promoted people to get back to work. And I agree with free trade as much as you can, but that money coming in from all the tariffs and all the taxation, basically that money is going into our economy, and it helps us get out of the recessions. The government is able to have that money to be able to go out and put money into the banks and bail people out.
I just disagree with the point you made about a couple things. The New Deal, the unemployment stayed pretty constant, almost 7 years through FDR's run of being president. It didn't really decrease any until the war. And another thing about taxes and tariffs is not really putting money into the economy. It might be for the time, like right now, but in the long run, it's going to take money out, because people eventually will not have that money. That the businesses have to have that kind of money to grow, and it's going to make more jobs, and people are going to have better products at lower prices because of that.
Well, because I'm supporting the Keynesian economics, I have to say that that everything is based on the short run. We can't determine what's going to happen 10 years down the road. We have to worry about what's happening now and try to fix it now. And people want to see a change. Nobody wants to sit around and know that their government's not doing anything, just twiddling their thumbs, waiting for something to change. They want to help out. They want to put something in place. So I think something's better than nothing.
I would argue that people would probably agree that the government and the bureaucracy is pretty incompetent with handling money, and that can be shown even this past week with the hurricane. FEMA, there's still 2 million people out of power, and the federal government is just not competent. As if a charity was in charge of that money, they would be right on top of it. They would be doing everything they can, but the federal government is not competent enough to cut the red tape and the bureaucracy out, and that's why it doesn't work to have the government control these things.
Well, I definitely agree. The government has their hand in a lot of things, but I don't think that's exactly what his ideas. John Maynard Keynes, he basically had a theory that you were supposed to put money and stimulate the economy during the recessions and basically withhold it during the times when everything was growing so that they had time to fix it in the recession. I don't think it, I'm not convinced that.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the economists that support the classical position have obviously Milton Friedman. We've watched quite a bit of his YouTube videos in class. We have Adam Smith. He was kind of as like the founder, and he's a big name in classical economics. A lot of people have based their beliefs off of things that he started. Hayek, Frederick Hayek, he's another one that argued a lot with Keynes' ideas. Robert E. Lucas, he kind of developed this idea of rational expectations, where the government would have to exceed the predictability of what the people would think would happen in order to actually make a change. And let's see, I think I have another one here. David Ricardo, he's one that argued a lot about free trade.
Okay. Well, obviously, John Maynard Keynes, he's basically the person who developed this idea that classical wasn't working, that they needed to come up with something different, so he stimulated that. And then we had a couple people that followed him. Alvin Hanson, he basically followed everything that Keynes had said, and actually he was the one that helped develop it's called the ISLM, or the supply and demand curve. He's the one that actually came up with that, and he also came up with the Social Security system to help people. You put money in, they're saving it for you until you get of age, and then you can pull that money out. And then James Meade was another one. He was a huge part of it as well. He actually sat down and debated with Keynes on different subjects, and he at first he wasn't convinced, but he later on changed his mind and turned out to be a very big supporter of Keynes. And then I have Oliver Blanchard, who is probably one of the most cited economists ever. He's written a whole lot of research papers and textbooks about economics, and he also was called upon to come up with some kind of what am I trying to say? He came up with different ways to get unemployment moving and stuff like that. And then, of course, Ben Bernanke, but I'm not going to talk about it. I don't particularly like him, so I'm going to leave him alone. Just because I don't like him doesn't mean I don't support it.
I can start with I think you're asking about his stimulus. I guess the quantitative easing that we've seen over his previous term, and he's just got, I guess, reelected. They called it last night, and I mean, my view on that is pretty much the same as what I said before. The quantitative easings have not worked, and just put out another one that we watched on YouTube in class, but we watched a little bit of info on that. And, I don't see why you want to keep throwing money into the economy when it's proven that it doesn't work. And the government, again, is just not, they're just not competent with spending money. And a point that she made earlier about the Keynesians was that they intended on having, in bad times you spend a little more, and in good times you cut back a little bit. And that's fine in theory, but it never really happens because the government has, there's politics that goes along with that, and they never really cut back. Once they put money towards something, you never really see it get cut back. It kind of increases marginally a little bit each year. So it's kind of unrealistic to go by that.
As far as the QE3 and all the other ones that they've done too, I just feel like, we have to try something, and if that doesn't work, then, we try something different. And, if by putting a little bit of money into the economy doesn't work and they want to try it again or try it in different places, it's not all going towards the same funds. I had something else I wanted to say. But yeah, I think that, we need to keep trying. It's not always a perfect fit. If something doesn't work, we should try another thing, and eventually down the road, it might work out. I mean, who's to say that it hasn't helped anybody? It had to help somebody. Somebody had to get the money somewhere. Talking about the automotive bailout, if it was a good move or not. Yeah. I look at it like this: if they didn't have the government there, to help, ease them out of their bad debts and their bad decisions, then we would basically lose that commodity. And I feel like, if maybe a little bit, did we go a little overboard on doing it? Maybe, but. Like I said, we have to do something. We can't just sit there and just let them fail. I mean, that's a big part. Look at all the people that become unemployed because of what, and look at the people that they've started to rehire to try to help out the automotive industry. So.
No, I would disagree with that. I think the bailout was a bad idea because it doesn't promote responsibility. GM, they weren't running efficiently, and if you keep bailing companies out like this, it creates an idea of kind of like the banking system where it's like too big to fail. And when they know they're making bad decisions and they know they're going to be bailed out, they have no incentive to be responsible. They have no reason not to balance their budget and do things that a business that's going to pay for it would have to do. And that's a big part of government bailouts is that it just makes it so that people when you have skin in it, then you're not going to take the chance of losing everything.
Okay. So how do we fight the inflation problem if we keep putting money into the system? Well. First of all, if the only thing that's really changing in the economy is just us putting money into the situation, then it will help. It'll actually bring down inflation because you're going to hire more people. More people are going to get out there and work. Money's going to circulate. But I mean, we can't depend on every single aspect of what can happen. I mean, obviously, we don't know all the factors. So, as far as us just putting money into the system, that's just one factor to it. I think that it will promote more people to go out and get jobs, more people to go out and circulate money, so the inflation won't go up as high.
I'll respond to that by kind of refer back to, I believe it was last class when we watched Milton Friedman talking about inflation, and he was calling it a disease, and it was kind of funny because the money supply. So the classical view is followed by the price. So the price will show when the money supply increases, the price, the volume will increase. Yeah, inflation was the disease, yeah. And so increasing the money supply, throwing more money in, is going to raise the prices. I don't see how that's going to help the unemployment situation, and just kind of self-explanatory.
I think we kind of went over a little bit about this earlier. As far as free trade, I do believe that the tariffs should be brought down. However, I still, like I said before, I think that they should still be in place because it does stimulate government money and helps fund us through wartime and our recessions.
I have a few free trade benefits here that I wrote down. The tariffs being eliminated would have more money in companies' pockets, which they can save and invest in things like growing their business and hiring more people. When companies like that grow, they become more competitive with other companies, and then they're going to fight with each other to compete and make the best product. And that's going to help the consumers. So it's going to grow the company and help the consumers at the same time. It's just an all-win situation there. Cost of living is going to go down, like I just said, because you're going to be able to buy more with your dollar. Goods are going to be cheaper because competition is going to drive down price. There's going to be more efficiency with free trade because there's going to be less government intervention because, like I said earlier, government intervention is proven they're not competent with spending money that they don't really have consequence in. And another big thing that I found was that it keeps peace between other countries. For example, like if the United States was trading, there's a lot of free trade agreements in Central America, and we have good relations with them because we have good trade with them. And you're less likely to have a dispute with a country that you have good trade relations with. So I think it's good overall to have international free trade because you're going to have better relations among everyone. Well, the question was how do you deal with people that don't really play, countries that don't play by the rules, kind of like Cuba and China, that they don't really adhere to our policies regarding the trade. And I would say that the best way to make relations better with those countries is you're going to have better diplomats and everything's going to be at ease if you open up the trade and start trading with those countries, and then maybe you could sit down and talk to them about the political part of, I guess, what you think is right or not right about the trade. But I think that it would make for a better relationship between the countries, the United States and Cuba, for example, if you open up free trade.
So you're saying that if we have free trade with these countries, then they will automatically adhere, or what if they continue to not adhere to policies?
Well,
they're cheating our country by...
Well, it's going to... I think that you don't really have to think of it that way. It's more about if the countries here, if the countries here were more competitive with what they were making, and we wouldn't have. You have to make what you have the comparative advantage in. And if Cuba, for example, has whatever they would have comparative advantage in, cigars or whatever. You just have to buy. If you want cigars from Cuba, why should the government be the one to say that you can't have a Cuban cigar? And trade, it's just.
So you don't think it's a means of controlling their
No, I don't think it should be. No.
I look at it like this. The people who aren't playing by the rules and everything. I don't think, if there's no free trade agreement and we stop trading with people, then we're not exporting any of our stuff because we export a lot to China, and then we get a lot back, and obviously everything says made in China on it. So it just because they don't want to adhere to these rules, I don't think we should stop trading with them just because of it. We actually have a lot of them. We have I think it's NAFTA, which is the North American Trade Agreement. and it's between Canada and Mexico and us, and we do a great job with that. So I mean, just because they don't play by the rules, I don't think that necessarily.
I guess we're on the same page there. I said I guess we're somewhat on the same page there then. Do you want to answer, or Shannon?
Okay. I think it's. Oh, I'm sorry. About the question is about legalizing marijuana, and I think honestly, I think it's great. I think it's another means to tax Americans, more revenue coming in. You know, I think that was one of the biggest problems before, was that we weren't able to control it. Obviously, we have people that grow it, and you know, but they can't. There's no way to tax on it, and I think that was one of the biggest issues. So by legalizing it, they're kind of getting rid of it's forbidden, and hopefully they'll be able to remove it.
Because I would have thought that you would have wanted to have more control over that, position.
I don't know about marijuana. Okay, I don't know anything about it.
I mean, I pretty much agree with that. What she just said, I think that legalizing it would just be another market that the government wouldn't have control over. And I think Casey has a question after.
Now, you guys plan to if you support the legalization of marijuana, is there going to be a limit on how much you can smoke versus driving? Like there's a drinking limit, and would that increase the amount of money the government's spending on patients in the hospital who are hurt as a result of the accidents caused by people getting high and driving?
Yeah, the question is there going to be some kind of limit similar to what there is for alcohol and driving? I mean, I guess you would want something like that, but you can only go so far as to regulate that. You obviously want to promote people's safety, but you can't go overboard with over-regulating that.
Minimal economic growth from the legalization was one of the lives of the people in the city's driving.
I don't think.
I'm sorry, that was like such a good question.
I don't think that. I think the greater. He said basically isn't the lives of people worth more than the income that would be brought in? And I would say that I don't think that there would be that many. I think the difference would be more in favor of the income, because I don't think you'd see as great of an impact on the driving part of it. I just don't think that would be a very big impact. I don't think you'd be definitively be able to point that out over the income.
I don't even know how to tackle this, because I don't know that much about this. But I have no idea. I actually have no idea. Okay.
Well, the mechanism itself will set these rules, because people will realize when they aren't practicing safety measures that they're not going to succeed as well. I mean, you have to think of it as the business standpoint, and you have to realize that the businesses are going to do what's best for them to succeed. So, I mean, the question was, who would be in charge of regulating things in the workforce, I guess, or just regulation in general. So I don't think the government should be regulating things like that. It's just there's more bureaucracy and more red tape that has more cost to the government actually than benefit that comes out of it. People will learn from their mistakes in the business world from the mechanism, and it might not be a benefit right now, but as a whole, everything will be better off as a result of that.
May I ask you, if you're hurt on the job, do you want, and you are permanently disabled, is it your responsibility to stay safe?
The question is if I was hurt on the job, doing something work-related, would it be my responsibility or whose responsibility it would be to handle that? And I would say that it's unfortunate that something like that would happen, but that's the business's way of, if the business wants to set up something where they have a fund that goes toward that, then so be it. But if that would be a benefit that they could offer to their employees, that there's no reason for regulation there. If the people who are looking for a job don't agree with that company's outlook on that, then they can go look for somebody that does. A free market will benefit from that.
I totally disagree. I think that there needs to be some type of regulation. If you look at it, people, as far as the marijuana and alcohol and stuff like that, it's an addictive drug, and if limits aren't set, then people, I'm trying to think of a way to put this, but
Like in the workplace, is the employer's responsibility to keep their employees safe?
yeah. Well, again, I mean, they set up different things. You have workman's compensation. You have, now people are required to offer you health insurance, because if you do get hurt on the workplace, what's to say your employer's not going to terminate you because of that? I think that there needs to be rules set in place for businesses and how they conduct themselves, and I don't think that without the government stepping in to do what they need to do, I don't think that people would do it on their own.
But I do think in the long scheme of things, if somebody was hurt on the job, just as an example, businesses would make adjustments to make that go away in the future. They would not let the same thing keep happening over and over again. And if they wanted to continue to be successful, they would make adjustments without the need of regulation and burdening the business itself in a financial way. It's unnecessary.
But not all situations can be, expected. I mean, obviously, some jobs have more of a higher risk, and you do take that risk when you do it. But, slipping and falling and breaking your leg and stuff, why should that be put on the person instead of the business?
Well, why should it be put on the business? I mean, it's not the business's fault that man slipped and fell. I mean, if I slip and fall at this stage, it's not just Peak College's fault. I mean.
But I think that the business is required to maintain a safe working environment, so why would it be their fault?
Now, at some point you have to take personal responsibility for things, and it's just unnecessary for government intervention at some point. You just have to draw the line somewhere. And
okay, you want to know what can be done in order to fix the gas price inflation? Okay. Obviously, like I keep saying, it's the Keynesian standpoint that we help by providing stimuluses and stimulating the economy. I think that some of this quantitative easing and stuff that they're doing will eventually help it. I mean, the demand is so high, everybody has an automobile, so the demand is there. Maybe by stimulating the economy, giving more money out, that they'll be able to smooth that curve out a little bit.
Yeah, I have a couple points of what the classical view would do to help gas prices. First of all, they would limit regulations on the people that want to be in the oil industry. Right now, Keynesian policies in America, they've set back drilling in America. The Keystone Pipeline that was not allowed to come, drilling in Alaska, drilling in the Gulf. All of these would have created jobs as well, and would have had more supply and greater production in America. Another thing was something that I stated earlier about keeping peace between countries, and this would have been helpful in the Middle East. We buy a lot of oil from the Middle East, obviously, and we've had a lot of disputes there lately, and and having free trade and better trade would have definitely helped us, because I mean they can basically charge us whatever they want for that oil. So better disputes would have been, or better handling of our disputes would have helped us definitely.
Okay. So you're asking, should there be a limit on how much the government can step in and demand certain things from you? Well, according to John Maynard Keynes, he definitely said that there should be a point where you do, but when the government doesn't step in, everybody always looks to them and says, how are you going to help me out? How are you going to do this? We set in different policies and fair system. That's us trying to stimulate money into the economy. These people don't have the money, so you're kind of feeding into. They have to pay their rent. They have to pay for food. They have to pay for all this, and it just trickles into the system. But to answer your question, yeah, I do think there should be a limit, and that's how Keynes wanted it. So I think that the government sometimes does overdo it, and sometimes they underdo it, and I think that they're just trying to find a balance right now to figure out where the correct amount should be.
I think that's a great question, and it's one that I think we'll be asking ourselves in this country as well. You have to be able to draw a line somewhere, and if you start little by little, the government gets control of, they get control of auto industry, and then they get control of healthcare, and then they get control of each little industry one at a time, slowly, and then all of a sudden they're in control of so much that it's out of control. They can't even produce enough revenue to support it, and then you've gotten to the point where they've got their hand in so much that it's inefficient, and it's unfortunate that the Keynesians kind of went away from Keynes' original ideas. He was not as extreme, I don't believe, as it's gone now. But yeah, that's definitely something that has to be looked at.
One question. So yeah.
Has the government, with its policy with the bailouts, set a precedent that would further affect our economy, considering businesses don't have to worry about it?
Okay. So the question is with all the bailouts, do we think that that's going to set a precedent for other companies saying that, hey, we don't really have to strive because we'll just get bailed out from the government? And my answer to that is no. I don't think that it's going to create, other businesses to just basically go up, we can fail. I think that that they'll get back into it, and they'll start circulating more money, and I don't think that it really sets everybody else up.
I went into this a little bit earlier, and I absolutely do think that this is an issue. The auto industry is a good example of what's going to happen if you do fail, and that's nothing. You're going to be bailed out, and that's going to be paid for by everybody else. That's going to hurt the economy as well, because enough of these bailouts, somebody's got to pay for it, and it's going to be people paying taxes towards it, and that's taking money out of their pocket to pay for it. So I just think that if you set the precedent early by not bailing somebody out, that's going to give a wake-up call to all the other businesses and say, hey, we're not going to get bailed out if we don't do this right. Maybe we'll take it a little more seriously.
Okay. So what you're saying is that, do I think that it's irresponsible that we believe in short-term fixes? And my answer to that is no. I think that we have to tackle one problem at a time, and so many factors change in the environment. Technology changes. People coming in and out of the market. I think that we need to fix the small problems as they come. We can't fix a problem that might occur 10 years from now. I think we need to build up to that point where everything is fixed. I believe that Yeah. What you're asking is if I believe that FEMA should be a short-term fix. Is that what it is?
Is that supporting kind of the Keynesian economics review?
I think it does. Actually, I think that we can't predict a hurricane a year from now, 2 years from now. So why should we be preparing for something that may never occur? I think that as things happen, we need to evaluate the situation and adjust accordingly.
Well, I guess my question is more, what if they were to find their own means to rebuild their town?
Okay. So my answer to that question is that sometimes people aren't able to do it. You have a lot of devastation. You have a lot of, it needs to be a quick fix. People can't stay homeless. We don't have the capability to take care of all these people. So I think that, if the government does have the money to spend it, they should jump in and help people out. That's what we depend on them for. That's why they're there.
I would say that FEMA's not doing their job right now. And Sandy, still New York, Staten Island's hit very hard. And
let me ask you a question. If FEMA wasn't around,
right.
the government should step in and help. Maybe they're not doing it as efficiently as you think they should.
Right.
But what if they didn't exist? That's regular.
If just something like FEMA didn't exist, it would be in hands of private companies would do things like that. There would be a private business that does what FEMA does, and people that live on the coast and in areas that they know or have tornadoes often, they would put money into this. If they were that concerned about it, they would put money into this business as some kind of insurance, and that would be much more efficient in handling a crisis than any regulation government will. I'll start. The question was what policies led to the recession we're in, and what was the second part? What would we do about? How could it have been handled differently? I think one of the biggest crises that we had was the housing market crashed, and that was in large part by mortgage-backed securities that were, the government was giving out. The people, they were getting loans for houses that they should have never had, and then it turns around that they can't pay for the payments on the house, and people started foreclosing on their houses, and now the housing market is terrible, and it's not really turned around. And in the years, the best way to go about that is, private companies would not make the loans that were made. Those mortgage-backed securities were terrible loans, and a private company that was doing that had their own skin in it and had their own risk in that, and wasn't going to be able to pass that on to other big banks like Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, they wouldn't have made those illegitimate loans, and that would have been a big way of preventing the recession.
Okay. I think that the housing market problem and everything, it was something that should have been done, maybe in a little bit more moderation, which is what Keynes believed in. But we have to make it enticing for people to buy stuff, or they're not going to want to buy it. By making it a little bit easier for the people to obtain a mortgage and the bank, to make money off of it. I think that it was a good thing. However, what do I think that could have been done differently so that we weren't in the position we are right now? I mean, everything goes up and down so much, and I think right now what we're doing as far as the quantitative easing and all the other tax cuts and all that stuff, I think it's kind of helping us out of the recession that we've gotten ourselves into. As far as the bailing out and trying to help it out, or I'm not saying that if we did it earlier, but I think that we're going to continuously have to put forth some kind of effort to get us out of it. I don't think that, just us sitting around going, we have a bunch of empty houses, everything's, basically devaluing. I don't think that us just sitting around saying, oh, well, it'll fix itself is going to do anything. I think that we need to keep things moving,
I guess the one thing I would say about that is people in a classical economy would learn from their mistakes if they made a loan that they can't pay for. Instead of getting constant government help now, it's kind of like they're getting a bailout themselves. They're going to learn from that mistake, and they won't do it again. And in a classical economy, people are going to take responsibility for the actions that they take. In a socialist and Keynesian economy, it's not the case. They're going to get bailed out, and the government's going to be there to hold their hand whenever they need it. Had some really good questions.